Some of my content has mention of extreme violence, sexual assault, and/or other triggering content. Discretion is advised. Guys, this is not a drill. They caught him. They caught the man responsible for the shootings that happened in St. Louis, and he was also operating in Kansas City, Kansas. So let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to my channel, Dark Enigmas, where we talk about all of the mysteries on the darker side. Today I have a huge story. I heard this news break on Tuesday. It happened on Monday. And I immediately was just baffled. I had done a video. If you haven't seen it, please watch it because it also is about this. And in this video, there was numerous victims being shot in St. Louis and no one was really doing anything about it. And fast forward to now, they caught him. They linked him to the St. Louis shootings and also to some shootings in Kansas City, Kansas. So this is a serial killer, or going to be a serial killer once they try him for all of them. And so this is crazy. We haven't seen a serial killer operating in the area in a while. So let's get into it. I will talk about what happened, and then I will talk about him and who he is, and also who the victims are. So let's get started. On November 8th, the FBI arrested a suspected serial killer wanted in connection with 6 killings that spanned the St. Louis and Kansas City areas over the past 2 months. This was Perez Reid. He is 25, and he was apprehended Friday at the Independence Charter bus station. He is currently being held on a weapons charge. The FBI tied Reid to a series of shootings that began September 12th in St. Louis County. All the victims were shot with a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson. Investigators later found that all of those shell casings matched back to Reid. Reid was arrested in possession with the handgun that matched all the shell casings. He also wore the same shoes to all of the homicides, so that's another big tip that it was him. Some of the victims were part of the trans community and also sex workers. So maybe this was for the killer an easy target, but we don't know motive yet. So who is Perez Reid? He was born in St. Louis, November 10th, 1995. He seemed to have a bad upbringing. His parents were unable to care for him, so he went and lived with a family member. Currently, at this time, Reid was going through a divorce, and this person lived in Kansas City, Kansas. So Reid would go between Kansas City, Kansas, and St. Louis. He has a bit of a arrest record. His criminal history includes an assault charge in 2019 and a reckless driving charge in 2015. In August 2019, he was accused of setting a house on fire with people still inside. The case was dismissed, and a lot is unknown about this at the time. We still don't know a lot about Perez Reid. This kind of came out of left field, at least for the public. Maybe the police had an eye on him and were watching him, but for the public, we don't know much about Perez Reid. So far, Reid has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of first-degree assault, and 3 counts of armed criminal action. Reid has also been charged with 1 federal count of transporting a firearm across the state line with intent to commit a felony. Police don't believe that Reid knew a lot of his victims except for 1, which he was in communication with a lot before the shootings happened. So let's talk about these victims. There is a long list of victims in this case, and he is being charged with 2 at the moment. But police we believe that he's going to be in connection with a lot more. So the first 2 was on September 12th. The victim was at a bus and was approached behind, shot several times without warning. The victim suffered serious injuries and permanent disability, but did not die. So this one is the charge of the assault. That one happened in St. Louis, and so did this next one. He is being charged with the suspected killing of 16-year-old Marnie Hayes on September 13th. I talked about this victim in my other video about the St. Louis killings. They were unsure what was happening at that point, but he is in connection with these 2 cases. Now, the police want to get him on a lot more, so let's talk about those. Also in St. Louis is the shooting death of Pamela Amakrami. She was 49. I also talked about her in my previous video. She was injured and unresponsive the night that she was shot, and they took her to the hospital and she later passed away. They also want to get him for the shooting death on September 19th of Casey Ross. I also talked about this in my St. Louis shootings video. They are also trying to get him for the fatal shooting of 40-year-old Lester Robinson on September 26th. They found him shot in the head and 2 casings were found, leading it back to Reid. The next set of homicides is the ones in Kansas City, Kansas, and these happened in a pair. There were 2 at the same apartment building. Authorities were contacted in Kansas City, Kansas on November 1st after the discovery of 2 bodies in the Wyandotte Towers, a 15-story, 302-unit building on Washington Boulevard. Both victims were found fatally shot. Investigators later learned that Reid had gone on an Amtrak from St. Louis to Kansas City the night of October 28th. He was allegedly seen on surveillance video being led inside the Wyandotte Tower apartment building by one of the victims, and then the family never heard from that person again. Reid was seen entering and leaving the victim's apartment the following morning. The very next day, Reid was seen entering the same building and presented his Missouri ID to the security. And then he was seen leaving that apartment 15 minutes after the second shooting. These victims were Damian Irving, who was 35, and Rajaja Farrow, who was 25. And they are of Kansas City, Kansas. Now, all the headlines are saying that he is tied to 6 killings. I counted 7, and I believe that there are probably more. Reid did these killings back to back. It was a day between. It was 2 days between. He was operating a lot. But the good news in all this is that we did capture him, so hopefully no one else will lose their lives. My heart goes out to the families of these victims. This is absolutely senseless. I don't understand why there was not more of an uproar about the St. Louis shootings. And I feel like we could have stopped the Kansas City killings if we would have paid attention to people who were saying there's something going on. I explained in my last video that people were taking to TikTok in St. Louis saying that there was people being murdered on the street and the cops weren't really doing anything about it. There was nobody talking about it. There was nothing being done. Unfortunately, I believe that because these victims came from marginalized communities, that they just didn't have any attention brought to their cases. So hopefully by doing this video and by this capture of Reid, people will start paying attention. So one thing that I saw that I really wanted to address was the racism around this case. I think because this perpetrator, this killer, is a person of color, and the victims are also people of color, but because he was, I think a lot of people think that they can attack his race or things about his race in connection with this case. That is not true. I fully understand bashing this man. I fully support saying that he is a cold-blooded killer who needs to be put away for life or the death penalty, whichever they go. And I completely agree. However, let's not make it about race. Let's not make it he's a bad person because he's a person of color, and make it he's just a bad person. I think in the coming days, weeks, months, maybe even, we're going to see a lot more about this case. Hopefully we can hear more about Reid and his motivations for this. Maybe there wasn't any motivation and he just was a killer. But I hope that we now see more attention brought to the victims. I couldn't even find a lot of pictures tied to these victims because no one's talking about them. No one's putting anything out. And that just breaks my heart. I want to showcase these victims. Now, when you research this case, the only picture, the only thing that comes up is about Reid himself. It should not be that way. We need to remember these victims for who they were and what they did for their communities. So they did it. They caught the guy. He is off the streets, and I'm happy, but there was a lot of loss as well. All right, guys, this is the end of my update. I will be seeing you guys next time. Like I always say, leave case suggestions for me. Hit that subscribe button if you are new here and you want to see more of my content, and that like button so that I can continue building my channel. I will see you guys later, and I'll be back with another story. Bye. Hey guys, thank you for watching. If you liked this video or any of my other content, please click the subscribe button and the bell and the like button to help me with my content and my channel as it grows. Also follow me on social media platforms. Right now my biggest form of communication outside of YouTube is TikTok, so please add me on there. I make some funny true crime content on there. So thank you guys for watching. Love you.